specifically on 13, just because of the way he ended the season last year. Your 13th-ranked quarterback in 2023 is
the Dallas Cowboys' Dak Prescott. Yes, Dak Prescott. Again, I got great respect for Dak Prescott. I think you know that. He's been a guy that I've had in the top 10 a lot, right? He is what I would say more than anything is he is good at everything, but not elite at anything. That's the one thing I think when, again, I love watching everybody back to back and doing that really jumps out at you. And then what I would talk about, and maybe why he took a little bit of a fall this year as compared to last year, more missed throws this past year than ever before. It was not as good, not only from the missing of the throws standpoint, and again, don't get me wrong, we're getting context of nitty picky. He made a lot of great ones too, but he missed ones where I go, you're too good, And a lot of times, like I told you before the podcast, they overcame some of this. They were so good offensively, he can miss a big throw, and then they throw a screen to Tony Pollard and he get 40 yards. Or he'd miss a big throw and miss a throw, and then CeeDee Lamb was wide open over the middle for 20 yards, and we'd forget about it. Mm-hmm. Where I'd go, if he's on a lesser team, that would have been scrutinized more that he missed that second down throw or that third down throw or that throw for the touchdown or whatever. But I think that was the big thing, let alone not taking care of the ball, right? And really, I think the other thing, too, to why he's 13, why I'm just rattling this off, I'm sorry, I'll just keep rattling here just for a second more.
Do you forget the point of this podcast every time we do it?
I don't know. Well, I want you to interject, too, and I don't.
Let's lay the foundation
okay,
for
I'm
what
laying
you think.
it. Yeah, so the other thing he did was he played not his best football in some of the biggest moments. I understand the Bucs playoff game was good. The 49ers playoff game was horrible. The week before the Bucs playoff game against Washington was horrible. There was other games during the year where I won't say they were horrible, but I would go, he played poorly that allowed another team to be in a game in the fourth quarter or come back and beat them or whatever, to where you go, it shouldn't have been that. Mm-hmm. And that's where Dak Prescott, in my opinion, fell off just a little bit this year.
All right, well, thanks for taking a breath here so I can get it now to the
You're
podcast.
Such a jerk.
So I think the narrative out there is that Dak's best days are behind him, and that even the Dallas Cowboys social media account agrees with that, because that is how last year ended. I don't know if you remember this. The Cowboys tweeted, the actual Dallas Cowboys tweeted out Dak Prescott gave the ball away twice in a narrow loss to the 49ers in a matchup the Cowboys had a chance to win if they didn't, again, generate self-inflicted wounds. Now, I will stick up for the Dallas Cowboys account, because behind every account, there's like a media team that is within every team. And what do they get blasted for most of the time? Oh, they're just, they're rose-colored glasses.
Right.
Or just, be real here.
Right.
He sucked. He threw the ball away. And like the one time they're like, all right, well, be real. This is all factual. He threw the ball away. And then people are like, oh, you can't tweet that if you're the Dallas Cowboys account.
I almost feel like that tweet came from Jerry Jones.
Maybe.
Like they literally went up to him and the Jones family and were like, how should we handle this for our social media?
Yeah.
And he said, tell the truth.
Crucify
our quarterback did this, which he's done before. So it felt like Jerry Jones talking there. But yes, they're paying him like a superstar. And he has not come through in some of the superstar moments, not only this year, but we can go back to the 49er game last year in the playoffs as well, where they lost and they were the favorite at home, right?
Yep.
And I think those are the things that are plaguing Dak Prescott and the perception around him a little bit.
So he was number 9 for you the previous 2 years. He has dropped out of the top 10 for the first time since 2019. So when Dak finds out this information, his day's gotten even worse. He had 15 interceptions last year, 23 touchdown passes. Compare that to 2021. 37 touchdown passes, 10 interceptions.
Right.
So this is what he said recently about those interceptions last year.
Yeah, let's hear it. I didn't hear this.
He goes, when you went back and looked at the tape, you could see that guys weren't necessarily thinking what I was thinking, and we weren't on the same page. He continued to describe, when all 11 are on the same page and we understand why, the whole passing game is going to be cleaner. Now, of course, we got a new offensive coordinator in this year, Brian Schottenheimer. I don't know if that's a slight at Kellen Moore, not getting everyone on the same page.
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy going to be calling the plays, I think, this year. So, what do you think about that quote? They weren't on the same page. They weren't thinking the same things on the field.
Yeah, that to me does speak to the coaching a little bit, and that what he would be saying in my world of ex-quarterback and being around the NFL is that there was little details that they weren't on top of as an offense, whether it was the angle in which you came out of a break in a certain route according to the coverage and what he was expecting Wait, hey, again, we've had this conversation before. Not every route is exactly the same against every coverage, right? There's little nuances to it. Where, oh, wait, I'm running the out route versus man. There's certain things about that, how you're being played in the man coverage that the quarterback might expect you to do. And now it's a cover 3 zone, and it's a little different element.
Yeah.
Now there's going to be a different way that the quarterback expects the receiver to run. It's the same route, but if you're not a trained eye or you got to know that there's a little different nuance there. That's what it sounds like he's saying.
I can see that, but Kellen Moore had been there previously for a long time, and I don't know why this year would have been different, or if it's just kind of the guy that's not there anymore, we can blame him because he's not here anymore.
That's where my mind goes, right?
Yeah.
That's what I think. And again, I go, maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe there's also some saving of face there. Again, here's a guy that's constantly scrutinized. That's the one thing. And that's one thing you heard me say, like one thing about a positive with him, and I said this to you before the pod when we just hit on Dak real quick, was that, he's a tremendous leader for their franchise. He is. I mean, he's made of the right stuff. He's one of those guys and that can handle all the bullshit that you have to deal with being a Dallas Cowboy quarterback. Whether it's the Cowboy fans and them always wanting more and expecting the glory days, whether it's the social media shitting on you as you're the quarterback, Jerry Jones talking about you sometimes and not going ways. He doesn't flinch, and that's where I do give him a ton of value. He's one of the better leaders in football. There's no doubt about that. But, like I said, it's when you break him down and start to get into it, and we hit on some of the play and the missed throws and the interceptions, and especially in some big moments, right? But when you really get it, the arm is good, but it's not in the upper crust of the NFL in that department. Same thing as an athlete. He's a good athlete, but again, not in the upper crust of the NFL. Throwing on the run, same thing. Different variety of releases, being able to flick it and stuff like that. No, he needs a little space, and he's got an elongated motion when you break him down. Same thing with arm power. It's somewhere between 10 and 15 in football, right? And then I talked about his release time and all of that. They're all average. And he does, and he had a lot of fumbles this year, and you go back and watch, and a lot of it was because it does take a long time for him to throw the ball with a little longer motion that way. So those are all the things that kind of took a step back. And then, we had some moments during the season where we talked about his mechanics, right? We've talked about this a few times over the last 2 years.
Didn't trust him.
He didn't trust him. He gets into and I've had these conversations with him in years past. He gets into some bad habits where once he gets going down that road, he can't get it back that day, right? Like the Washington game would be one of those days where I'd go, look at it. I mean, he was leaning forward. He was pointing his foot, like his toe, at you like he was a baseball pitcher, right? Which he does. He's the only guy in football that does that. But sometimes that can lend him to leaning forward too much. Sometimes it can lend him to he steps with his foot everywhere and he doesn't get his body involved. I mean, you ever see something? He looks like he's a sword fighter at times. What the hell do they call that?
A fencer.
A fencer. Yeah. He really looks like a fencer sometimes, right? But because of that too, it leads to he gets over the top of the ball, and that can lead to the ball either going high or low depending on exactly when he releases it. So those are all little things that I think affected him. And for Dak Prescott, I thought it was of course it was. He knows that. It was a down year for Dak Prescott.
Yeah, the turnovers for sure. The 15 interceptions in just 12 games, the fumbles here. But PFF had a stat here to maybe indicate that it was some bad luck involved there too. His turnover-worthy play rate went from 3% in 2021 to 4% last year. So it went up, but not significantly. His interception rate, though, did double. So maybe part of it was just, they always say variance and it'll regress to the mean. And sometimes in a football game, something weird happens. And, you throw an interception through no fault of your own.
Yeah. No, I think there is some of that, but I'm not going to give him the excuse of that this year. Yeah. I defend quarterbacks when there's that.
Yep.
These were more of what I think a grading company would look at and go, oh, it should have been caught. When I'm going to go, no, when the ball's a foot behind the receiver, bad shit happens. And the ball might pop up and get an interception. Or, just because the ball hit the receiver's hands doesn't mean he should catch it. If he's coming out of a break and coming downhill at 1,000,000 miles per hour and you throw a fastball high and wide and, oh, yeah, he touched it with 2 hands, sometimes those grading systems go, that was a drop. And I'll go, no, that was a shit throw. That would have been a great catch if he made it, right? I think there was some of that. And then within the mechanics, too, of Dak Prescott, see what happens to him, too, and this is where I'll fault him a little bit. The ball is not quality, right? The ball, he throws some hard knucklers when he starts to get into that. And it's hard to catch the ball like that. When it's a big, strong man throwing a ball at you that's big ball, and it's coming at you at a high velocity, and it's not really spinning or has this place to, focus on the target, that can lead to things as well. So those are things that, to me, within the context of what you said, would affect some of those numbers and are a reason behind some of it.
Which is why maybe on the I Am Athlete podcast, DeAndre Hopkins, when asked about the top 5 quarterbacks you would want to play with, your guy, your friend, Brandon Marshall, said, how about Dak Prescott? And he shook his head. And then he goes, Justin Herbert instead. So, I mean, maybe that's part of it. Not an easy catchable ball.
Well, but
the shine is off.
The shine is off. That's the point. I mean, I think in DeAndre Hopkins, I'm sure thinks Dak Prescott is good. Brandon Marshall, all he does is interview people. I don't think he's watching film that much, okay?
Yeah.
So, he's not into the nuanced stuff of that stuff there. Dak, there was some people last year on TV who came out and were like, he needs to start talking about as one of the top quarterbacks in football because he made a fourth quarter drive against the Texans. And I want to go, they were losing because of the Texans because of him. They should have been up by 2-3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that's where, again, he's a polarizing player, and he gets probably more hate than he should. And that's where I do think sometimes that can lead to analysts giving him more love to squash that.
Yeah.
And it's somewhere in between there as far as the truth.
Well, there's a lot of emphasis, of course, on the playoffs. And he has a losing record in the playoffs. He is 2-4. If you look at his regular season record, he's well above 500.
2-4, and I would say out of the 4 losses, 3 of them were sure he was on the better football team and lost.
So that's it. So here are the numbers comparatively. And the numbers aren't too drastically different, actually. His interceptions per game, touchdowns per game, passing yards per game, pretty similar regular season and playoffs. It's just a matter of when those mistakes do happen in the playoffs.
Right.
We remember them forever.
I think so. That's right. This is the moment where you're supposed to play your best. You play your cleanest, right? We're paying you $45 million a year. You're the Dallas Cowboy quarterback. We're used to seeing Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach. When we get in these situations, we win. They make the big throws, right? And they haven't had that with him yet, other than one victory against, it was the Seattle Seahawks, and then I'm trying to think of who their other victory was. I'm blanking on who their other victory was. Oh, this year against the Bucs. Duh.
Oh.
Right.
Yes.
So it's those 2 games.
I know, and after that game, everyone was like, he's back.
He's back.
He's the guy. He finally has figured it out in the playoffs.
That was the microcosm of the year, though.
Yeah.
Last game of the year, horrible. Come back, play awesome. Go back to 49ers, play horrible, right? Now, here's one thing I'll give him credit for. And again, this thing goes into the leader, the man, how mentally tough he is, right? I said, he took a step back in some of his play. There's no doubt. But I will say this, even when you go watching those bad games, right? Makes a few bad mistakes. Man, my man keeps firing. He doesn't go, I'm not going to throw the 20-yard throw here now because it's somewhat tight and I don't want to get blamed, right? I love that. So there's a guy that he's playing to win. He's not playing to then, let me get in damage control mode and make sure I don't make another mistake so I don't get blamed by the Cowboy media.
Even when he's struggling through bad mechanics.
He does.
Slump.
He does. I mean, he'll keep firing. He really will. And that's where I give him credit. And that's sometimes where it can go, oh, man, now it was not a good day, right? Because he did keep firing, and it did throw another ball off target. And it can be, no, it is 2 interceptions, or it is 3 interceptions, right? And, I think that there's a little of that. But at the same point, he's still really damn good. I think he bounces back this year. I'd be shocked if he doesn't, okay, just knowing that human. But it was a roller coaster year. There were some good moments, some bad moments. They let teams hang around too much, like I said, and it was not his best year as far as decisions and throwing the football.
He's under a lot of pressure, maybe more pressure than any quarterback we'll talk about from here on out.
Maybe.
To have a big season.
You're right.
And his head coaches, too. And so I think they are both – it's a make-or-break year for the Dallas Cowboys, which should make it very interesting.
Yo, thanks for watching, homies. It's the off season, but there's no off season for us here at Unbuttoned. me, Ahmed Fareed. We're going to hit all the stories. So hit subscribe for us, okay? We got a ton coming up. My draft prospect rankings, my Simms top 40 quarterback countdown, and videos of me and NFL QBs playing catch and talking about their development and mechanics. Again, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe. Peace out, homies. See you soon.